betrayed, humiliated, and plotting revenge that went spectacularly wrong. Hello, my name is James Carter. I'm 37 years old. I've been a helicopter pilot for 15 years, 7 in the military and 8 as a private pilot and bodyguard for local politicians. I've seen places and situations rougher than anything a civilian could imagine, but nothing prepared me for the nightmare waiting when I got home one early morning in my house just outside Cambridge. It was 3:15 in the morning, and I had just returned from a week-long security detail with a city councilor. Still lugging my duffel bag over my shoulder, I paused at the doorway of our bedroom. There it was, the unmistakable stench of sweat mingled with something else I hadn't smelled since my army days. Only this time it wasn't my own. Our bed looked like a tornado had ripped through it. Sheets twisted, stained, pillows strewn across the floor like casualties of war. I muttered under my breath, dropping my bag with a heavy thud. But Emma wasn't in the bed. Emma, my wife of 3 years, the woman I thought I trusted. Instead, I found her curled up on the leather sofa in the living room, wearing one of my old military t-shirts, no trousers, and bare feet tucked beneath her. Her dark hair was damp and mussed, and she had that flushed, just woken up look that once made me weak at the knees. Now it just made me suspicious. "Why are you sleeping out here?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. 15 years in the army taught me one thing. Control your tone, no matter how much your world is falling apart. She stretched with feline grace, that practiced innocence in her smile. "Couldn't sleep, James. You know how I get when you're away too long." The bedroom felt stuffy, so I opened the windows. Right, like fresh air could erase the smell of betrayal hanging thick in the room, I went into the kitchen, desperate for distance and coffee. 2 mugs sat in the sink, both with lipstick stains. One was Emma's usual shade, pale rose, but the other was darker, almost crimson, too much, too deliberate. Had she had company while I was gone? Just Sophie dropped by yesterday, needed to vent about her divorce. Emma called from the living room. Sophie was Emma's best friend since university, a blonde firecracker who loved gossip like it was her lifeblood. She'd never met a secret she didn't broadcast. I dried my hands and sat stiffly in the armchair opposite Emma, keeping space between us. "How was your week?" "Quiet. Worked late most nights. You know how the startup's launch is going." She smiled, but something in her eyes didn't meet mine. I nodded, told her I was going to shower, and made my way back to the bedroom. The smell hit me again, stronger now that I was looking for it. Her vanilla perfume, my aftershave lavender fabric softener, they belonged here. This did not. In the bathroom, amidst her usual lotions and potions, I found something out of place. A sleek silver watch with a black face, definitely not mine. On the back was an engraving, DM. Time to win. Class of '08. I turned it over in my hands. Steady despite the storm building inside, I knew Emma had never mentioned anyone named Darren. But the name stuck with me. The shower was scalding, but it didn't wash away the sinking feeling. When I came out, Emma was back in bed, covers pulled up like a child pretending to sleep. I dressed quietly, grabbed my laptop, and started digging. A quick search led me to Darren Moore, a former university rugby player turned security consultant. His LinkedIn photo showed a man with a cocky smile, dark hair, and the kind of build that suggested he'd never met a rule he cared to follow. A man who left his watch lying around other people's homes. My phone buzzed. A message from my mate, Tom, my co-pilot and closest friend. "Coffee at 7? Need prep for weekend job." I glanced at the clock. 6:15. Close enough. Make it 6:30. I'm buying. I closed the laptop and looked back at the bedroom. Emma was still feigning sleep, but I could feel her eyes on me. It was time to see how far this went. Murphy's Diner was a relic on the edge of town. Cracked vinyl booths, burnt coffee, and the kind of place where everyone knew your business before you sat down. Tom was already there, occupying our usual corner seat with a newspaper in hand. "You look wrecked," he said, eyes never leaving the page. "Long week. Need a favor." He folded the paper. "What kind?" "Surveillance. Wireless cameras, GPS tracker for a car." His eyes narrowed. "This about Emma?" "Maybe." Tom nodded. "I can get you what you need." My cousin runs a security outfit. Corporate stuff, divorce cases, that kind of thing. By 9, I was back home with gear that would make my old Army intelligence buddies jealous. Tiny cameras, a GPS tracker the size of a pack of gum, and a voice recorder for later. Emma was in the shower, singing off-key. I placed cameras behind the dresser and on a bookshelf, and the tracker discreetly under her car's rear bumper. 3 years ago. Seeing her like that would have made me forget everything. Now, I just handed her a towel and wondered who else had seen her like that recently. She smiled, kissed my cheek, and told me she'd be working late on a big biotech presentation. Perfect. That left me time to watch. The cameras caught everything. Darren turning up at 8:45, tall and broad, with a swagger that made my blood boil. Emma and Darren disappearing into the bedroom, then returning hours later, disheveled and satisfied. Then a third man arrived. Marco, stocky and menacing. I closed the laptop, poured bourbon, and sat in the dark. The old me would have exploded, probably winding up in a fight or worse. But 15 years taught me patience. Emma wanted games. Fine. I'd play. My phone buzzed. Working late again. Love you. I deleted it. She came home at 2:15, quiet as a ghost, showered, slipped into bed. No trace left. But I had proof, and I was just getting started. The next morning, Emma was all smiles and coffee kisses, playing the part of the perfect wife. Might work late again tonight, she said, buttering her toast. Campaigns heating up. I sipped my coffee, watching. She lied, I knew it. Her job didn't demand late nights. Not like this. Later, I attached the GPS tracker to her car again. It led me to Darren's loft, trendy, exposed brick, and full of bad decisions. I watched them leave together, laughing like lovers, destroying my life piece by piece. Texts from Emma were dripping with lies. Missing you at the conference. Two could play that game. The days that followed were a blur of surveillance, whispered phone calls, and secret meetings. Emma's best friend, Sophie, was a source of both relief and dread. Her gossip spilling clues I wished I hadn't heard. I confronted Darren in a shadowy parking garage. 3 seconds of violence, 15 years of training distilled into a brutal reality check. Then, the real betrayal revealed itself. Emma and Darren weren't just cheating, they were stealing. Forging documents, plotting to frame me, and using my security clearance to rob the campaign of a man I protected. The final act played out in a marble bank lobby, under the gaze of security cameras and a dozen witnesses. Emma's mask cracked, Darren's bravado faltered, and Marco's loyalty crumbled. My friend Tom showed up with backup. Ex-soldiers ready to put an end to this farce. Divorce papers were served. Locks changed. My life reclaimed. Months later, Emma was arrested, and Darren faced charges too. I sat in my lawyer's office, free and ready to rebuild. The skies beckoned, endless and clear. I poured a glass of bourbon and raised it to the empty room, the only witness to betrayal and the awkward, messy road to karma. Tomorrow I fly again. This time, for me. The morning sun filtered through the curtains of my newly emptied bedroom, casting long shadows across the freshly laundered sheets. The scent was different now. Clean linen. Not the heavy mix of perfume and deceit that had haunted these walls for so long. I sat on the edge of the bed, nursing a strong cup of black tea, trying to steady the whirlwind inside my head. The house felt quieter, too quiet. No hurried footsteps. No whispered phone calls in the kitchen. No late-night laughter that wasn't meant for me. Emma's absence was a presence all its own, filling the spaces she once occupied with a hollow ache that I ran my fingers over the smooth surface of the watch I'd taken from Darren's apartment. Silver with a black face, the engraving still clear, dim, time to win. It had been my first clue, a token of the betrayal that had unraveled my life. Somehow, holding it made the whole nightmare feel more tangible. Less like a bad dream I couldn't wake from. I thought back to the confrontation in the bank. The way Emma's confident facade crumbled when I laid out the evidence. The videos, the forged documents, the voice recordings. The gasps around us. The slow realization spreading like wildfire that the woman they'd known was not who she claimed to be. Darren's glare. The way Marco's tough act faltered as he weighed his options. And Tom. God, I owed him everything. He'd been there through every step, never asking too many questions, just offering the steady presence I needed when everything was falling apart and my phone buzzed, pulling me back to the present. A message from Tom. Drinks tonight? My treat. I smiled, tapping out a quick reply. Sounds like a plan. I need it. Later that evening, we met at the Fox and Hound, a cozy pub nestled on a quiet street in Cambridge. The kind of place where the regulars knew your name, and the walls held 1,000 stories. Some better left untold. Tom slid a pint across the table. You holding up? I took a slow sip. Better than I thought I would. Feels good to have it all out there, even if it means starting over. He nodded. You're stronger than you know, James. Not everyone gets out of that mess with their head held high. I glanced around the dimly lit room. The low murmur of conversation, the clink of glasses. Somewhere in the back of my mind, the old doubts tried to creep in, the questions about trust, about love, about whether I'd ever be able to open up again without the fear of being stabbed in the back. But for the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. You ready to fly again? Tom asked, breaking the silence. I hesitated, then nodded. Tomorrow. Got a charter to 3 cities. Simple job. Just what I need. The sky outside was clear, the horizon a canvas of endless possibility. I thought about the flights ahead, the hum of the rotor blades, the wind rushing past the cockpit. It was a world I understood, a place where control wasn't just an illusion. As I left the pub, the cool night air filled my lungs. I looked up at the stars, steady and unchanging. The past had tried to drag me down, but I'd fought back. Awkward, messy, and with a ridiculous plan that somehow worked. The sky was calling, and this time I was ready to answer. The next morning, the first rays of sunlight spilled over the rolling fields surrounding my house, painting everything gold. I stood on the back deck, cradling a mug of coffee, the quiet hum of the world waking up beneath me. It was a simple moment, but it felt like a victory. A reclaiming of peace I hadn't known in far too long. My phone buzzed again. This time with a text from an unknown number. The message was short, bitter. You destroyed my life, James. I didn't reply. I deleted it, the sting of those words fading faster than the morning chill. She had destroyed her own life with greed and betrayal. I had only exposed the truth. Later that afternoon, I found myself at the airfield, the familiar scent of fuel and leather filling my lungs. My helicopter waited patiently, gleaming under the sun. I ran through the pre-flight checks with practiced ease, the routine grounding me. Before I climbed in, Tom caught my arm. Ready for the next chapter? I met his eyes, steady and sure. I am. No more looking back. As the blades whipped to life, the world below shrank, the worries and betrayals falling away with the ground beneath me. Up here, the sky stretched endless and free. A blank slate waiting for the stories I'd choose to write. I leaned into the controls, feeling the familiar surge of power and possibility. The past was behind me, its lessons etched deep but no longer shackling. Ahead lay blue skies and open horizons, and for the first time in a long time, I was flying toward something better. The future was mine to chart, and I would not let it slip away again. The hum of the engine filled the cockpit as I lifted off, the fields and rooftops shrinking beneath me into a patchwork quilt of greens and grays. I settled into the rhythm of the flight, steady hands, focused eyes, the world reduced to instrument panels and endless sky. It was the one place where I felt truly in control, where the chaos of betrayal and heartbreak couldn't touch me. As we soared over the countryside, my mind drifted back to all that had happened. The smell of that ruined bedroom, the shock of finding the watch, the hours spent piecing together the puzzle of lies, the cringe-worthy revenge plans, the awkward confrontations, the way my pride had taken hits I wasn't sure I could recover from. But here I was, still standing, still flying. Landing in the next town, I caught a glimpse of the small crowd waiting at the helipad. Businessmen and women, politicians and their entourages. They didn't know about the storm I'd weathered, the personal battlefield I'd fought to leave behind. To them, I was just James Carter, pilot and protector. But I carried my scars quietly, a reminder of what I'd survived. And maybe, just maybe, what I was capable of. The days ahead promised new challenges, new flights, new missions. But they also promised freedom. A chance to rebuild, to rediscover who I was without the weight of betrayal dragging me down as the sun dipped below the horizon. Painting the sky with streaks of amber and violet, I felt a quiet resolve settle deep inside me. Whatever came next, I would face it head-on. With honesty, with courage, and with the knowledge that sometimes, the most painful journeys led to the clearest skies. The engine's steady drone was a lullaby, a promise of hope. And as the helicopter rose once more into the fading light, I whispered to myself, this is just the beginning. The city lights twinkled below as I guided the helicopter through the evening sky, the familiar buzz of the rotor blades a steady companion. The weight of the past months, the lies, the betrayal, the embarrassment of my own clumsy revenge attempts, felt distant up here, as if left behind on the ground somewhere far below. Touching down at a small airfield on the outskirts of Norwich, I shut down the engines and stepped out into the cool night air. The scent of damp grass mixed with engine oil, a strangely comforting blend that reminded me I was still me. James Carter, pilot, survivor, and maybe, just maybe, someone ready to trust again. I pulled my jacket tighter around me and glanced back at the helicopter, its silhouette sharp against the starry sky. The road ahead was uncertain, littered with the ghosts of mistakes and scars that would take time to heal. But for the first time, I felt like I was steering toward something better, a future I could shape with my own hands as I walked toward the terminal. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Tom. Ready for the next flight? Let's keep flying forward. I smiled, fingers steady as I typed back. Always. The night stretched out before me. Empty, vast, and full of promise. And for the first time in a long time, I was ready to fill it with new stories, new beginnings, and the kind of freedom only the open sky could offer.